Hi, this is Charlie at My Messy Fingers. I am having to redo several videos because I had a conflict with YouTube on them. I thought it was an upload error, but it ended up being a conflict. So I'm having to redo some of the signatures on an instructional basis rather than a build basis. So this is your signature 4 that goes on page 4 of your album. What I want to start out with, if you'll get a pen and paper, I'm going to give you the measurements for the cardstock. So we're going to start with the left side panel. Left side panel, you're going to want to have one piece that's at 6 1/4, measuring at 8 3/4 along the length. You're going to score that piece at 1/2 and at 3/4. Then for your right side, you're going to have one piece that measures 6 by 8 3/4, and you're going to score it at 1/2 and at 3/4 along the length. You're going to have a second cardstock piece that measures 5 3/4 by 9 3/4, and you're going to score it at 1/2 inch on each end. This is going to form your pocket, and you're going to tape or glue that to this piece right here, being careful that you do not encroach in on your score marks or the gusset that you've created between these two. So this is what I'm talking about. You have your front page. This was the 9 3/4 inch piece that you scored at 1/2 at each end, and then you either tape or glue to this front cardstock panel. I'm going to encourage you to use tape because as you press to secure that with the glue, that glue could spread, and you're going to then lose some of the spacing that you have in here. Your base, which is this right here, this was a 12 by 12 piece of designer paper, your paper, and that base is going to measure 8 1/4 across by 8 3/4 long. Okay. Then this pocket down here, I am using scraps that I have left over. I like to use scraps. It minimizes what we've got sitting there, and this piece is not big enough or wide enough to do any photo mats out of. So we're going to use it as a pocket. So this pocket is 8 3/4, because it covers the base, by 2 1/2 inches. Now your piece of paper that you're going to use to cover this can be the same one I've used, or it can be one that you think looks better with this base. But don't cut into other paper, because I did a paper count and we're going to be really close to not having enough paper to finish the final signatures. So please look at your scraps, find a piece, and then you are going to cut to fit on this cardstock. Now, these two pieces were cut from the same 12 by 12 sheet. It's bronze in color. It has wording, white light wording. It's got this beautiful crack that runs through it, making it look like it's old paper. And that's what I use for these two panels. On the front, this was a 12 by 12 piece, and I cut it right up past this. I think that's a rook. No, what is this? I don't remember, but it's next to the horse. I know that's a horse, but I think it's called the knight. I'm not a chess player, obviously. So you're going to cut to fit your cardstock panel for here, and you're going to cut to fit for the cardstock panel here. Now, before you add this piece and this piece, you will need to place your magnet here. Oops, I'm sorry, wrong. We did this. Taking one of the cut-aparts, I framed it in, mounted it on black cardstock. I used some of this paper to back it. I found where I was at a halfway mark here by turning it over, and I made a tick so that when I cut this piece, it would just come right in here very nice and cleanly. The magnet is here, so you can put this all together, but hold off on this piece of paper, and then put your magnet on there, drop it down, push it to secure that magnet, and then to lift so the magnet doesn't pull up, just give it a slide and it will separate real easy. Once you have paper on it, that's not going to be a worry. And then cut to trim and fit this. All right, this card, your pullout, is 5 1/4 by 8 3/8. And then what I did was I got up several beautiful trinkets from Scrap and Create, and I'm using them as the pull for the cards. I taped it in place to make sure that it was secure, and then I taped this piece on so that it was secure, and then I just simply glued a strip to the back side. Now, each of these measurements, as I've built, will be different because of the depth of the page where it goes. So they're not going to be equal all the way through. They're going to be off a little bit. But I've tried to make them so that there's approximately a 1/2 inch that's going to hang over once you get it in the pocket so that it is easy to see. Now, one of the things that I used that helped that measurement is when I taped this together, these two pieces, I used a 1/4 inch tape here, 1/4 inch tape here, and a 1/4 inch tape here. So this 1/4 inch piece of tape here allowed that to be the stopgap so this doesn't go all the way through. So I want to point out to you that you're making a gusset, and that's going to allow for what's filling up on the inside. So you should have a 1/4 inch gusset on both sides. Now, mine shows an 1/8 inch gusset, but it is going to work a lot better if you do the 1/4 inch gusset. So that's why in my measurements, I am telling you to make it a 1/2 and at 3/4 to make that 1/4 inch gusset. Now the waterfall, this piece ended up measuring at 5 inches long by 1 1/2 inches this way. You're going to score at a 1/2 and you're going to score at 5/8. That small gusset will fit in the 1/4 inch gusset that you're making here. You want a little bit of a lift to this tag, that's what I call it, to this tag, so that as you fill your photos on this, that this thing isn't starting to buckle or bow because it had no room to adjust to the height here. So when you put this in, make sure that when you lay it in that you are coming up to, you've got 2 score marks, come up to that second score mark and lay your paper so that this will have that 1/8 inch gusset that you need for lift. Now, I'm sure you've made these a dozen times and you know how to do it, but for the purpose of a new person, I did need to explain that. Now, your waterfall, you need 6 of them, measuring at 5 1/2 in length by 3 1/2 inches tall, and then you're going to score at a 1/2 inch along the length. I call the length. I don't know what you would want to call it, but you're going to score on this end at a 1/2 inch on each one. So what you're going to do then is, and if you've made these, go right ahead, but again, this is for that new person. You're going to tape the back side of this score mark And what I did was I measured, I wanted to come a 1/2 inch off the top and approximately a 1/2 inch on each end. I got a little bit bigger gap over here because I didn't measure right, but that's okay, it still works. So you're going to tape it down, make sure you get it nice and even, make sure you got it evenly spaced, and then you're going to tape it down. And then this one, when you fold that gusset, you're going to butt right up to the edge of this flap that you've scored. And you're going to secure it down. And then this one, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to take this and you're going to butt it right up next to that. You don't want to see a gap. You don't want to see this paper come through the gap. And you're going to do that all the way through. And then what I did was I found a piece of paper, which was the same one, so there's kind of a matching blend going here. I cut, because this score mark here is at a 1/2 inch, I cut a 3/8 of an inch strip to cover this gusset piece all the way through. So you're not looking at tons of black. If I have enough scraps left over, I will come back and cover these back sides. Otherwise, they'll be black and available for someone just to put in their photo on top of the black, so that covering them is not quite as necessary as I think covering the top. Now, all of these pieces that I used to cover the front of the waterfall all came out of my stash, my scrap pile over here. Again, trying to use up all those scraps. I used that same beautiful green boxed grid paper to cover both sides of the tag. And then from the cut-aparts, I cut out this item here, backed it on black cardstock, and I taped it, glued it here on the end. So that is your build for Signature 4. Now, this should have been a live build, and I apologize, but like I said, I found out I had a conflict with the uploading items to YouTube, and I've had to redo these, but these builds are already done. So if you have any questions, I really want you to reach out to me, and I'll do the best that I can to answer them. You can either leave a comment down below, or you can email me at mymessyfingers55@gmail.com. And thank you.